Mute yourself if you're not talking. Thanks everybody for watching, for visiting Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators. Today we are in Tim's living room, and Tim is not here. Oh, there he is. But anyhow, lately in the news there was a TikToker who talked about how he was offered money from the church or representatives to bear her testimony, basically. Seemed almost just like priestcraft in a way to be able to do something like that. And I have in the sidebar the StreamYard if people want to show up. Thanks, Lisa. You're not too late. We started late. So anyhow, Tim, if you're going to make more noise, mute yourself, just to let you know. Peter's in the side chat, and I think I could show his. And so
I'm done making noise.
All right, Diamond Dave, did you see what was in the news?
Which one? Well, I saw two things in the news. One was the TikToker LDS sponsorship, and then another one was, it looks like yesterday someone shot up the Sri Ganesh, or no, it was the ISKCON temple, the Radha Krishna temple in Spanish Fork, Utah, was shot at about 20 to 30 times.
Wow. Did you think the church paid somebody to do that?
No, it's probably just some Mormon.
It's some drunk redneck.
Wow.
Drunk priest elders quorum.
Yeah, I just saw it pop up on my news feed, and then I Googled it, and there's like different news sites reporting on it.
That's nuts. We had right here in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Coeur d'Alene and Spokane are right next to each other. And some guy started a fire in the forest. And then as the firemen responded to put it out, he was shooting them with a high-powered rifle. He killed two of them, gravely injured one of them. People are freaking nuts.
I've heard that happened before, same situation where they ambushed firefighters.
Dang.
Right.
Glad I don't live in America anymore. This does not happen here.
So what I thought we would talk about today is marketing Jesus. So Diamond Dave, in a way, had Mormon Jesus marketed to him about 5 years ago. And missionaries that paid their own way, eligible for the church, invite themselves over to Diamond Dave's house. Tim? While you're coughing. And so anyway, and Tim Rathbone paid his own way to go on a mission to market the church. Randy paid his own way. Trevor paid his own way. For some reason, I got out of doing that.
Actually, my dad paid my way.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
But he took it out. He took it as a donation to the church.
Do you think he offset his tithing with it?
I don't know if he ever paid tithing, but he somehow finagled it.
Claimed it off his taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those were goodie points for your dad, for sure.
Yeah, that was $125 a month, and when it up to $135, it was like, wow. That was when a mark, 2.5 marks to $1.
It's probably like, was it like 1,000 now or 500 or something? That's a lot.
It's around $500 now, I think, each missionary pays.
Yeah, $500. Well, it depends on the country.
Yeah.
I think they did it all the same. It was like, it doesn't matter what country you go to.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Yep, Donna.
Hey, Debbie.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yes. Always.
And so, but recently, like I know they had the I'm a Mormon campaign, cost a lot of money, millions of dollars. I know when the Book of Mormon musical came out, the church had a full page ad in the program saying, now you've seen the play, buy the book,
Read the book.
read the book. Now I've seen the musical. And then they had announcements for people. I remember going into the ward building, and there were pamphlets. There were racks and racks of pamphlets to take on different subjects, different talks that were there. And you think about it, the printing press 100 years ago, 50 years ago, it was what the internet or Facebook is today, right? Or TV. And so
Right.
does anybody remember? It cost the church money to put on temple pageants, right? So they were marketing themselves for doing that.
Yeah, they've been, haven't they? Like Manti, Hilkamora. Like, how many pageants have been canceled that actually supported those communities? Because I went to the Manti pageant and I was like astounded because I was a non-believer about like how much people brought to that community, because Manti's in the middle of nowhere. Let's just say it.
Big tourist attraction, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So why would you end a tourist attraction that promoted like Mormonism? Everyone who went to the Manti Temple pageant was like a true believer. Absolutely. And loved like the pageantry. It was like a road show on steroids where they were like,
Wait, was that pageantry what you just did, Deb?
that was total pageantry. That was my Mormon version of it.
I think I know why they canceled it.
Why?
It's that damn pageantry.
Yeah.
I never claimed to be a pageant.
In Mesa, Arizona, every year for Easter, we would have a sunrise service. And then they changed it to a nighttime gig because there were so many people that would attend. What was special about it and what I loved about it was that one of the best parts was when Christ ascended into the sky, because they had one of those big telephone pole boom lifts that went way into the sky, and he'd stand in the cart thing, and is wearing a long white robe that would cover the cart thing. So it was a great illusion that he would, and the spotlight was right on him in his bright white robe. And so it never failed when he was rising up into the heavens with this glowing spotlight on him and this glowing robe and his hands raised in the air. You'd start, because it was right on Main Street in Mesa, the temple, you'd start hearing brakes slamming, because it looked like Christ was coming up from the Mormon temple. And if that's the case, we're all in big trouble. Just saying.
Well,
right?
and that's interesting, juxtaposed, because you grew up in Disneyland, like the land of make-believe and running security. And I feel like Mormondom is the land of make-believe and bad actors who want to be like Disney actors. And that's why we have so many Disney actors who are
So
no
they're
longer
Pixar.
It was good practice.
They were like dragging the line.
And you know what we have that the Mormons have? Well, what we have at Disney that the Mormons have?
What?
Pageantry.
Absolutely. I can say the Osmonds were total pageantry. And I dated the Brunson brother, Gaynor, and he toured with Liberace, and like they were pure talent. So Mormons can take pure talent and turn it into a pageant and make it so sensational it can go on tour.
Right?
And that's what they used to do with their Mormon like temple pageantry. And I'm just wondering like why they stopped, because it enriched the community of Mormons in the community. Like to be in the Mormon pageant was like, I gotta play the baby Jesus. I remember like being a baby or a kid, and we would for Christmas recreate the like Nazareth situation, and I got to be like an angel. Like I have pictures of it. Like my mom dressed us all up, and we would like.
Yeah. Well,
But
pageantry there too.
that was for family. So imagine doing that on a stage in a community where you were getting thousands and thousands of people watching you every night. That is
That's a really
like
good point. Yeah, why did they stop? I don't get it.
They
Because it made sense.
they weren't generating converts or enough
Well, I
money.
think-
Most
A
of
lot of it is the sorry, Tim.
Yeah.
A lot of it is like the stuff that made it unique, Mormonism unique, is the stuff they're hiding because it is disprovable, you know. So they just want to be like regular Christians. So they've kind of got away from all of that stuff and just want to be
Well-
generic Christians.
which
and they only,
And just a second. So Trevor's, just a second, Debbie.
generation grew up saying we were weird and funny and talented and different. And that's how the generation I grew up in. We were like Mormon. Like I had people when I went to Vegas at 15 and moved to high school. Like I moved out of Alta, the cool school in Utah, and then went to Las Vegas in the middle of like the ghetto busing system of like 25 gangs that would just be bussed in because that's how it worked. And like people, like I didn't identify all of a sudden with these same people like I was raised to identify with. And so to say like it didn't convert people, I think people back in the day converted, maybe like you did, Diamond Dave, because you found a good community and good people in a community and you liked it. And it wasn't about the doctrine or the gospel or all this bullshit we talk about, right?
Partially true. Some of it was doctrine because it was similar to Hinduism. I would say the difference is you actually hit it on the head earlier by saying that it was like not, it was different, right? Like, so Mormonism wasn't trying to be like mainstream Christianity. Mormonism was its own thing, like Hinduism is its own thing. And so, because I grew up in a non-denominational church and I'm relatively fluent in like the different denominations, right? You have the familiarity of Mormonism with Hinduism, but you also have the fact that, hey, this is actually different than just like everybody else. It's not like, you know, the bland oatmeal of Christianity. Like it's kind of, you know, it's different, it's unique, and there's stuff happening here, right? So it's a mixture.
You like to be weird. I guess that's what drew me and like kept me in the loop, was because it was weird. And I was like, it's so weird, it must be true.
Well, one of the things for me,
it's just weird. It's not good.
Yeah, for me, one of the things was like one of the like, you know, the changes and the trying to be more mainstream. That was actually one of the first red flags to me, because you know, I've heard like from the I Am a Mormon campaign back in high school in like 2005. Right, it's like we are a peculiar people, and we do these things because, you know, this we believe it's true, and I'm like, cool, I'm here for it, right? But then, you know, changes were made, and then they went from the 3-hour sacrament to the 2-hour sacrament, and now there's a pilot program for 1-hour sacrament that I've been hearing about from members, And I'm just like, I got crucified in the Facebook comments because, and it was actually on Jasmine Rappley's post back when she was a part of Scripture Plus, because she did like a little poll and was like, what do you guys think about going from 3 hours to 2 hours? And everyone loved it. And I'm the only one in the comments going, no, this is the one true church. We should be spending more time
I
in the
agree,
church.
totally.
We should be spending 8 hours in church on Sundays,
The
10
more
hours
lighter
in
days.
church on Sundays. And she was like, I love the enthusiasm, but I am not one of you. And I'm
Oh,
like,
it's true, yeah.
yeah, but exactly. It's like you have, I mean, Muslims pray 5 times a day. Hindus you can watch on ISKCON. They have like 12 and even 24-hour prayer meditation sessions where people will plop themselves down for 12 to 24 hours, not get up, not use the bathroom, right?
Wow.
But Brad
That's
but Brad Wilcox says everyone else is playing church.
It's a miracle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, wait a second, that doesn't connect.
Well, and Dave, to that like same conversation, like when I grew up in Utah, I loved it because I was in a very Utah community. And then when I moved to Vegas, I was different. And I loved it because I was different, but I still found my community. I didn't resent. Like, you'll never hear me go, oh, I hated doing 3 hours of church. I hated like being a part of this community, or I hated giving up my time. You know what I hated? Being lied to. It's
Yeah.
like being
Yeah.
cheated on by a husband or a spouse or a friend who lies to you. I hate lies. That's the point. And they
Yeah.
lied to me.
I remember
Right.
in the 70s, it was 2 hours. We had everything during the week. Priesthood was like Sunday morning, and then they
Yeah,
switched
and then
it to
Sunday
the
school
3
was like
hours.
I
on
remember
Wednesday.
when we
Because
had
of the gas
3
prices, is
meetings
what I was
on
told.
Sunday. I remember when we had 3 meetings on Sunday. We had priesthood meeting in the morning, we had
Mhm.
Sunday school, and then we had sacrament.
Yep.
I only remember this because my mom accidentally left my oldest sister at like primary when it was like the separate
Well,
meeting on
primary
Wednesday.
and mutual, right? Primary Wednesday and mutual was Tuesday
Wednesday,
night.
and I was in mutual, but Wednesday was my night to make dinner because we all had a different night, and I made the same thing every Wednesday night, tater tot casserole. So in my family, that's known as Wednesday night special. And so that was how I kind of was rebellious in the, I had to cook once a week. It's like, no, I'm 12. And so they got the same thing.
Well, like when I joined, like there was 3-hour church on Sundays, right, with the different meetings. Monday was family home evening, and I either went to my ward or my roommate's YSA ward. Tuesday was my roommate's YSA institute that I went to. Wednesday was my mid-singles like institute that I went to. And then there was like some Thursday firesides occasionally, and I would go to that. And like it just kind of blew my mind because some people that I went to church with were like, you don't have to go to church so much. And I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Like, isn't that why these things exist?
It kind of screams out desperation as the meetings get shorter and shorter, as though they're trying to entice people to come attend.
But they've destroyed all the social cohesion. There's no more road shows. There's no
And
No
that was
dance
what I wanted
festivals.
to talk about. I wanted to know if
mutual.
any of you experienced the exercise in mutual, or you took a trip to Hawaii and the plane crashed and everybody got assigned to different kingdoms. And this was how they were talking about sin and where you could eventually go. And I was in Denver, Colorado, and it was a stake event that we did. And it was, I don't know, it was creepy but amazing. And it was just the pageantry of it's what I'm talking about. They don't do anything close to any of that.
I don't
You know,
recall ever being a part
There
of
are
a plane
still 3.
crash. No.
There are still 3 pageants in the church. There's the Mesa, Nauvoo, and the English pageant, the British pageant. That's it.
Well, isn't
And there's-
Trek technically pageantry?
Kind
like
of,
that the
yeah.
kids go on. Yeah, I feel like that's like a form of pageantry.
In
Now-
order to qualify to go to the Mesa
I grew up
pageant,
without the pageantry. So, like, on our youth conferences, we went on a road trip and we did like a river run to Moab. We did fun things. Like, every ward can pick what their youth conference was. And now all of them, it's like, you have to do this, this, and this.
at the Mesa Temple, you're not allowed as a member to attend the Easter pageant unless you have an investigator with you or a family with you. But you can't just go
Wow.
as a member or a member
Wow.
family. It's required that you bring an investigator or you don't get in.
Oh, this
So
is a fatal flaw.
Anti-temple pageant like in my 20s, and it wasn't like that. Like, I just attended, and I left the church, like, so I was probably late 20s, and I'd never been to a pageant.
Now, we were planning on doing a pageant for San Bernardino. And we went to Mormon Rocks and the Cone Pass. We talked about it. We contacted regional representatives, 70s, and all that stuff. Talked about doing it. And it was almost a go, and then they killed it.
I don't get it. They're taking it all away.
We had
I
a
think
They're
youth
so.
taking
trip.
everything away.
We
To make
took
it less
nine
demanding.
Greyhound buses, the entire Denver, I don't know, like, and we went to all the beginnings of the church. We went back to Carthage, out into Ammon. We went in Mark Twain Caves. It was a 10-day trip, and we had a one night in a hotel. The entire trip was on Greyhound buses. And it was just an unbelievable experience as a youth to get that. We went to Carthage. We went, everything. And that's a strong indoctrination, a imprint imprint to be able to walk those grounds with all your peers. And it was intense. Like I said, 9 Greyhound buses of youth. They can't do those anymore. They don't have that many people.
Yeah.
I
Well,
saw-
it's bad marketing. It's bad marketing because if they're trying to be more mainstream and they're taking away everything like the pageants and everything, it's just bad marketing because I've had people who are still members be like, it's okay. We know you hang out on Exmo channels, Diamond Dave, because we believe you're going to come back to the church. Now, you know what? That's okay. That's fine. I mean, if they want to believe that, I personally don't give a shit. But my question is, if the LDS church is becoming like all the other churches, why would I go back to the LDS church when I can go to another church that does the exact same thing and occasionally has water slides? Like, why?
That's true.
And coffee and donuts or something. Like, you're right.
Exactly. Like, I can drink beer. Like, there's a church in my area. I can go drink beer.
1 hour church.
You
Coffee
get
and
little
donuts.
pieces of bread. What are you complaining about? You get little pieces of bread and a little cup of water.
Cup of water.
Here's a question. How many years until the church merges the water slide and youth baptisms for the dead as the same event?
I got the money for it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
read
saw
it on the
a thing where
loudspeaker.
they're doing like mass baptisms now, supposedly.
Well, yeah. I'm like, Dave, we're like 5 days away from that. Okay.
Like, yeah, so it's like I guess the LDS Church is going the Baptist route for some reason. I don't
Yes.
know why, but
For some
okay.
reason, I see an electric guitar, a trombone, or a drum because apparently, like, I dated a professional jazz musician, trombone player who toured with Liberace. And at a certain member's funeral, they didn't want him and his 4 brothers, the Brunson brothers, I will give them credit, to play at his funeral because they were trumpet players. So a trumpet player could not play in a sacrament meeting at a funeral who supported their art industry forever.
Wait. Sacrament meeting?
Yeah.
Funeral?
Probably a funeral in the
Not
chapel.
like
No.
sacrament meeting, but in the sacrament
In the chapel.
hall,
In the chapel, you mean?
in the chapel. Like, you couldn't play anything that wasn't like a harp
Well,
or a
Right.
string instrument or a piano or
you could play a French horn, though. You could play French horn. Or
Didn't you like it when people played the harp?
instruments.
When people
know
play
what
the harp at sacrament meeting, I felt we were in heaven for some reason.
Oh my God. They still play the harp at Grand America, okay? And it's beautiful. I love it when I walk through the hotel and I see that playing. But you know what really offends me is that I go to a youth like mass because I'm Catholic, and I did this in St. Louis, and these kids just were so happy, and that they were rocking out and they were like singing. It was their youth like pastor service. Like they had their own mass. Like we have like singles wards for you, whatever, people unattached. They had youth mass. So if you don't want to go to mass with your parents because it was super boring, you could go to like youth mass that night. And there was a youth pastor and a band, and these kids were singing, and there was a band playing, and all these kids were just like vibing on this. And I was like, the Mormon church, if they wanted to be a Christian church, has lost all concept of how to be cool, because they're like stuck in 1980 and still pegging their jeans and like wearing like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Plus, their
Because
answer, Debbie, their answer to everything is like the funds. Hey, just go with the flow. Just keep on paying tithing. And I'll tell you something. The Mormon church is going to do mass someday because they're becoming more Catholic-y, right? But it's not going to be as good. And
No,
so
it's more
everybody
Protestant.
at it, and they'll call it half mass. The Mormon church does it half mass.
it's
They do
going to be more
everything half mass.
boring. They're always going to be boring. And here's the thing: is other religions have realized how to adapt to their like people. So like now Catholics, you know, they don't do the Latin mass all the time. They now have like a youth mass. They now have mass at different hours. Do you think Mormons will ever go to a midnight mass ceremony or a sacrament
Or
on
Saturday
Easter?
night. Or
Yeah,
Saturday night.
Never.
Let's just combine with the talent show.
Right.
I've got bad news for MB, who said that she used to love to go to the Mesa Visitor Center. It's gone. It's gone. They tore it out. No one
What?
knows why. Yeah, it's gone. They put the visitor center in an office building across the street, and now the temple does not look near as amazing as it used to. They
Oh,
really
sad.
screwed up on that one. They screwed the pooch by taking the visitor center out.
They try to make it as nice as the Salt Lake one.
No,
You know,
I walk the Salt Lake one all the time and see the construction. Whatever they're building there, they've destroyed all the heritage, all the culture. They're now putting in these like microcosms of like brotherhood. It's not what it is. It's not what it was. I think it's
Well, they had to
offensive
change.
to any generational Mormon, and maybe converts or tourists will look at it and go, oh, that's kind of weird, because I can go to the like genealogy building and the Mormon History Museum on my way to work, and I've been through those buildings, and they're still kind of weird and don't tell the truth. It's a box of lies on that corner.
Rio for Life mentions that the Catholic full mass funeral services are a snooze fest. I used to hate those in the funeral industry when we'd have the Catholic. Well, the only thing worse than a Catholic funeral is the Mormon funerals. They're both snooze fests, but the Catholic one especially, because they're rattling off
Yeah.
this Latin stuff, and they have such a routine of whatever it is they do.
What about Mozart's Requiem or Beethoven's Missa Solemnis or Bach's B minor Mass?
Beautiful.
Okay.
And
You
my
ever do
daughter had a Catholic mass, and it was gorgeous. My daughter had a Mormon funeral, and it offended me so much I left the church. Rude.
Yeah, they
Did you
don't
ever do
celebrate
a?
the decedent.
Did
They
you ever do a
celebrate.
Scientology funeral?
Yeah, I like Gregorian chants. I know I'm weird, but like I
No,
think
you're not. I do too.
yeah, I like the traditional Catholic mass, and kind of my point is, like with Mormonism, it seems to be a hodgepodge of like different cultures in America, right? Because you have, the story of people coming from Israel to America, right? So you have little bits of alleged Jewish culture. I don't see it, but whatever. Then you've got, like Egyptian culture with the alleged Book of Abraham. Again, I don't buy it. And then you've got like all these other kind of like, indigenous tribes and cultures that were here. And it's kind of like a hodgepodge of everything. But like you look at other religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, like they don't have to change anything because there's actual culture behind it. And
Modern
like
inventions.
even the Catholic Church has a lot of culture there. There's a lot of culture in the
That's
Catholic
true.
Church to where
Absolutely. And some people are like criticizing that some fundamental groups are holding on to their culture and don't want to give it up. And the Mormon culture in the mainstream Mormon religion is like, I want to prostitute myself to any Jesus and stick my dick in it. Like they become something I don't even understand.
Well, it's because they got disproven largely.
That's your
They have to. It's been disproven. Their history, so they had to pivot.
They're
But,
you know what, Rusty.
Did you ever do a? Did you ever do a Scientology funeral, Randy?
Nope, I never did
I
a
was curious.
Scientology funeral.
I wonder what those are like.
Never been
That
to
would
one of
be
those.
interesting.
Yeah.
We don't even have a
Yeah,
Scientology.
my grandparents were buried Freemasons, and very their numbers are on their graves, and very religious. Like, you know what? That's the thing. I people go, why didn't you convert to Catholicism? I'm like, at least it was something. If when I grew up, it was either you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I was like, well, if I was damned here, I'm gonna put my toe over here, because those were the two great nemesis of Mormonism. It was like Mormons versus Catholics back in my day.
Are you saying it's not true that Freemasons are ground up and put into mortar so they can be in between the bricks?
No, they're not.
That would be fitting to me.
True ones are.
Ha ha ha.
You have to find a grindatorium.
Grindatorium.
Yeah.
So,
But I just feel like traditions to people matter, and that's the thing. I feel like when people talk about refugees or immigrants or anything, like when you're forced to flee your community because it becomes so oppressive and harmful, like I have fled Mormonism, I feel like a refugee in Utah. And that's a stupid, ignorant way to put it. But I can only identify it with that because I have been harbingered like 100% by my family, and no one talks to me besides my dad. That, like, if I could go back to my traditions, if I could go back to that place of comfort, if I could go back to that family, I absolutely would choose that, regardless if it was true or not. I would choose to live a life that I knew versus now being in the wilderness of sin. Yeah, I get to do cool things. I get to have free choice. I get to have free reign. But it was never different from when I was a Mormon. I always had those choices to make a choice. But now it's my choice. It's not based on my religious choice. I just didn't want to leave the land I was raised in to be accepted.
Well, I don't think it's a bad way that you describe it. In fact, it's kind of along with what you said on Red Note, which is basically I don't know. It's basically China's version of Twitter, right? A bunch of, or TikTok. A bunch of people went over there when Trump was talking about the TikTok ban, right? A bunch of people went to Red Note, and I remember calling myself an American refugee because I was moving to Mongolia. It was only Americans that were like, "Don't say you're a refugee because that's not correct. There are real refugees in the world." And then people in China, Mongolia, and like Cambodia were like, "Yeah, we've seen the news. It makes sense." It's like it makes sense. Happy for you, kind of a thing, because people in other countries, they understand that when you leave a country or you leave a religion, it's not that you're just physically relocating somewhere. It's you're leaving behind everything that you know.
Amen. For
There's
sure.
there's and
Beautiful
like
way.
people in America just don't understand that because I think it's just a cultural difference because it's more based on the individual rather than the family and society as a whole. So
You know
it's
what's
just not.
fascinating to me is that people who serve all these missions in all these other countries don't come up with that same ideal. Or like if I could go, I know I went to Italy for 10 days and it changed my life. I know I've been in like other parts of the country and I've seen the world and it's like changed like my perspective on a good way because I got to experience their culture, their friendship, their food, like their passion, just their hospitality. And to say that we're all bad or we're all good unless you put yourself in this box, it kind of like really hurts my heart that like some people are still so ignorant to just being nice. Like,
That's
Well,
right.
and
can't
it's
we
Mark
be nice?
Twain. Mark Twain said that travel was the death of prejudice.
speaking of that quote, Deb is going to remember this. I called in when I first. It was on Radio Free. No, yeah, it was Radio Free Mormon on Mormonism After Dark. And I called in to say that I moved to Mongolia. I finally got here. Whatever. Deb is going to remember this because I was talking with you and the thing.
Mhm.
The next caller, some woman. This is an Exmo, right? So this isn't just Mormons, but it's in the ex-Mormon community too. She called in. She's like, "How can he be safe in between China and Russia? What if the United States invades if they want the minerals? And what is he going to do with Trump in charge, leveraging all the tariffs?" And I'm sitting here going, China's our number one trade partner. Russia, there are monuments to the Soviet Union right by my house. If you really want to invade, good luck. You don't have the manpower to do it. Also, we give minerals to the U.S. in trade deals because the third neighbor policy. It's just like all these really bizarre things. And I'm just like, tell me you have not left America without telling me you have not left America.
And we send
Like
what
really bizarre
8,000
question.
missionaries abroad and they're safe and we say they're safe and that's okay. But when you would want to become an expat, you're not safe because you learned the language. My brother actually spent 8 years abroad in Cambodia because he can read and write Cambodian because he served a mission in Philadelphia and they had a Cambodian district and he learned Cambodian. Now, this is the 90s. They don't do that anymore to help immigrants. But he then went to Cornell and his minor was Asian studies. So he did a year in Vietnam studying and then took his family and they had 3 children in Cambodia. They only moved them back there like when they were like 6 and 7 because like they had 3 kids in 3 years or 4 years because he felt like they wouldn't know their culture and he wanted them to be raised within American culture, which sucks because I felt like he was in a perfect place, and now they're Utah Mormons, which I don't know if my brother chose wisely, but his wife overruled it. But she loved the help. Like in those countries, your dollar and if you can be prolific in any country, you can afford help. You can afford a nanny. You can afford a housekeeper. You can afford a driver. In the United States, making $50,000 a year, you think a company would give you health benefits, school tuition, a driver,
Yeah.
a nanny? No, we don't get the same benefits here like you would going to another country. And that's the
more of a
difference.
positive about America. In America, there's not people willing to work for nothing. Where some of these countries have a lot of desperate people. So you're more arguing why America's better in that argument.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of what's better or worse. I think
those other people, like, because he was Mormon, and so he like became like a branch president, and even though he wasn't really Mormon, but like he helped that community as an expat, and like their maid, and they would definitely take care of people. I think people are programmed to take care of people and like be concerned about people and worry about people and think about people. If you take religion out of it, people are people. There's assholes and fungus, and there are good people.
Well, and that kind of goes to with like the marketing of the church. And Deb brought up an interesting point. It's, people on Radio Free Mormon tried to talk me out of moving to Mongolia, saying it's much safer and better for me to stay in the U.S. than leave the U.S., which I fundamentally disagree with, but that's fine. But it's like, the whole mentality of like, now that I left the church, as Deb said, it's dangerous for me to be next door to China. But in the church, it's a wonderful place to send missionaries to learn, teach others to learn the gospel, and send them off to Siberia, and back when India was giving visas for that, which they're not anymore, like send them to Mumbai, send them to Bangalore, send them to New Delhi, Kolkata, Rajasthan, right? Those, it's safe for them to go there. I'm like,
you're saying the field is white, all ready to harvest out there?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, where does leaving the church make things not safe, but being in the church is safe to go to the exact same location?
Well, and
Good point. Good point.
Debbie,
my sister
I wanted to get it back to marketing Jesus again instead of like where a good place in the world to go is. And I wanted to ask Randy what he thought the church was doing when they're trying to market the church. Are they trying to get more tithe payers, or in what way do they want to what are they trying to shore up, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think
numbers for true believers.
I think that the church is feeling the pangs of desperation right now because the numbers are declining. Yeah, they say that the baptisms are increased, blah, blah, blah. But the activity, the members who are active in the church are dropping like flies. So I believe that the church is manipulating its members now. What is their big push right now is letting everyone know that Christ is about to come, scaring them into, I better get active again and let me pay my tithing because Christ is going to come.
And they're building temples as if Jesus needs more than 4,000 summer homes.
Right. Instead of putting shoes on kids' feet and instead of feeding those who don't have dinner, they're building these luxurious temples as billboards to say, hey, everybody, look at us. And another thing, I think someone touched on this already, is that they're trying to buy off these social media people who were once LDS and maybe not even LDS anymore, or I mean, at least their names are on the records of the church, but they're paying them to go on and providing them with a script, what they can say, what they can't say, and offering to pay them if they'll go on and tell everybody that the church is wonderful. They have to smile. They have to not call it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have to call it the Church of Christ. The Church of Jesus, yeah, the Church of Christ.
Or
And-
Jesus
Christ, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not allowed to even call it the LDS Church, because these are signs of desperation. So the church is ramping up all of these social media. You know, I can't get on Facebook without, you know, looking at my post-Mormon sites that I do without seeing 10 different commercials of a sister missionary walking up or an elder rapping or doing whatever, trying to get people to
Well-
you know, give a message saying, "Hey, I'm looking to be saved. Yeah, come teach me." It's
Or
I think
the-
it's deeper than that. I think it's deeper
Or
than
the
that.
the banners outside churches inviting people to come in for Sunday service or for Bible
All are welcome.
camp.
Here's
When
what
you're
I'm going to
paying
say, and this is
influencers
going to
on
be.
TikTok, you've lost the game. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. You
What?
become like
What?
an MLM. Like,
This is
Say
going to
again.
be.
Fiverr every day, and look,
Say that again. Say that again,
Who?
Debbie. Say that again about TikTok.
TikTokers
Yeah.
on Instagram or whatever, it's just like, okay, I spilled it all over myself. It was my water. But it's like me going, look, I drink water. I'm much more healthier than you. And my life has changed. And I'm a better person. And look, I feel so much better. I drink water.
That's what you have to say to appease the church in order for them to pay you. It's a contract that you go into with the church, and then you invoice them, and they'll pay you if you've met their expectations. So I put my son on notice. My son Garrett, who's still a member of record, but you know, not active
Me
in the
too.
church. And
too.
I've asked him to let me know when they contact him, because you know they're going through the records to see who's LDS, who's not. Yeah, they're desperate to find social media people with large audiences.
And I think Garrett is due his second anointing.
Yeah. Cash in.
Right.
This is
Randy's
going to
on
be
my
the
elbow.
hot take. This is going to be the hot take of the episode, but I think it's deeper than all of this. The reason why they have to market, and I'm going to be very specific here. Hot take
Yeah.
of the day. The reason why they have to market Jesus is because organized Christianity is a virus. It is a cult. Not saying that Jesus
agree.
necessarily is a cult leader, but the organized religion in of itself of churches is a virus. It cannot survive without the Great Commission, right? Because what does Jesus say?
Yeah.
Go into all the world and make ye disciples, right? And
Disciples.
that's what everyone does. If they did not market Jesus, Christianity would die.
Agreed.
Correct.
And I think what the thing is they don't need more tithe payers. They've got plenty of money. I think they're building buildings, $50 million temples, 200-foot tall steeples to make the leaders of the church feel good. I
Yeah.
think they
I
want
think
to
they're
keep the
afraid of
numbers.
Muslims and Jews and other religions, like overcompensating them, like in history that always happened. That these
They-
like other like denominations, like holy war. We don't need another holy war. We don't.
The
No one's
church
dying
needs to
for God.
spend. The church needs to spend a certain amount of its holdings on building buildings and doing things for its members. Otherwise, it loses its 501c3 status.
Well, it's
Tim,
like if
everybody
you're
TikTok stars to like go who aren't even Mormon to say, I'm from the church, and like not Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like we're required to say. But like
I look at it.
that I love Jesus and it changed my life, and look how healthy I am. I'm
Well,
so cool.
how are they going to talk about the Book of Mormon without saying Mormon? Right?
Yeah.
This
Well,
book
know what?
changed my life.
The
If you're
whole
a
thing
billionaire,
Debbie,
10
let's let Trevor say what he wanted to say.
it's
Thank
like
you,
if you're
Trevor.
a billionaire and you have $1 billion, but like your kids all hate you and your family dies and all these horrible things happen. Well, you can still go buy yourself a nice mansion and with your money and have some joy in life. So the church is kind of that situation, It's like, well, I have
That's
is
true.
money,
I mean,
so-
at least Elon Musk is making giant space dildos and just rocketing them off into the sky, like, having the time of his life. So,
So first he's like, hey, I got money.
Yep.
I agree with all that.
It's a big billboard for the church.
Oh, yeah. They're building all by freeways here in Utah. They're building all these
Yeah.
new ones right next to the freeway.
Of course.
I
They used to
feel
build
like,
them in a secluded spot.
you know what? Here's my assumption, and I'm going to just say it right now, is that the Mormon church back in the day pigeonholed themselves into, we are so true and so unique, and that's why we're weird. And now in 2025, which is definitely different from my generation of growing up Mormon, it's like saying, we're like everyone else. And I'm like, yeah, if you're like everyone else, you're not as fun or cool, because other religions do fun, cool things. Like they have game night, they have trivia night. You can bring a bottle to a table, you can make cocktails, if you want to know how to party, the Catholics know how to party. Let's just say that.
Well, the internet doesn't obviously disprove all those religions, where Mormonism does. So it's kind of a different ballgame. I have to kind
That's
of
right. The
pivot.
other false dichotomy was that either the Book of Mormon was true or it's false. And the church is either true or it's the biggest fraud ever. So
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
over 8
Okay,
billion people are
can
going
we
with the
get a
biggest
panel
fraud.
assumption right here, Gene, on that comment? Is the church true? Raise a hands. Is it false? Raise a hands.
Oh, you're muted, Randy. Randy, you're muted.
Properly, but it's been proven over and over again the falsity of the church. If one major brick is taken out of the foundation of it, it tumbles, it leans, it cracks, and that's what's happening right now. And family members that I thought would never become inactive or leave the church are leaving the church, and me included, because I see the light. There was a Mormon bishop who was walking down the sidewalk, and this little kid was selling kittens. And
their eyes aren't opened. They're Catholic.
Thanks for tinkling on my parade, Tim.
wow.
Spoiler.
Go ahead, finish it, Randy. I'll
No,
pretend like
it's done now. Punchline has been uttered.
Finish it, Randy.
So what does
It's-
somebody say? Are these kittens Baptist? And you have to say no, they're Catholics because their eyes are closed. I don't know.
Well, it's basically he's selling kittens, and the Mormon bishop thought it was really cute because it said Mormon kittens for sale, and he just thought that was adorable. But a couple of days later, he's walking by and he sees the same kid selling the same kittens that says whatever, plug in the name, Baptist kittens for sale. And the bishop's like, wait a minute, just a couple of days ago, I thought these were Mormon kittens. And he says, yeah, now their eyes are open. So
I'm going to say they're rational thinking kittens now. is what I
Right.
would say.
But that's what's going on in the church.
The homeless guy who says I'm too ugly to prostitute. Give me money. I'm like, I'd rather give a prostitute money and make her.
I mean, to be fair, that's really effective.
It is. It is because that's usually the
So the guy
ugliest.
just say, "Give me money, I'm going to buy bears."
I missed something. So anyhow,
Yeah, like marketing Jesus. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and it's not just like, I don't even think Catholics, oh, Deb left. I don't even think Catholics market Jesus like nearly as much. And some of it has to do with just the marketing itself. People know what Catholicism is. They don't need missionaries to go on doors. You know what I mean? Knock on doors and go tracting. It's the reason why Rolls-Royce was so successful. There are no advertisements anywhere on the planet for Rolls-Royce. We all know what it is, right? We all know what Islam is. We all know what Catholicism is. We know what these religions are. Like, we don't like. Oh, Deb's back. Maybe you can answer this, but like Mormonism has to market Jesus, but like Catholics don't, because everyone knows what Catholicism is, right? I mean, I don't think there are Catholic missionaries knocking on doors, right?
I can absolutely answer that question, because when I decided I wanted to become Catholic, because I was married to a Catholic, they were like, we don't need more Catholics. Like, are you devoted? And you have to go through this class for a
RCIA.
year.
Yep.
And you have to have a sponsor who will be there with you through your education, through like Catholicism. Now, luckily, I had a basis in Christianity. It was nice, so I just adjusted it. But like, my deacon was like, "We don't need more Catholics. Like, we don't need more people to take care of." Like, you know, that was kind of like their mentality. Like, if you're joining us, like, get on board. We're not going to do that for you.
you know those infomercials where it'd be the.
You know what? Can I tell you something so beautiful about Catholic conversion?
Okay.
Please.
So Catholics, when you're a convert, only baptize over Easter weekend. And it's a 4-day ritual. Like, you go through the process, and Catholics on Thursday, like, I don't think Mormons even understand when they try to like embrace that we're like doing the Stations of the Cross or something Easterish that's like different than what Christianity did, because I think all their Christians take their like code notes from Catholicism.
So what's
like
beautiful about it? What's beautiful, Debbie? Debbie, what's beautiful? What's beautiful about the Catholicism conversion?
So you do on Thursday a candle night visual, and then on Friday you walk in and you're wearing robes of a peasant, and the priest baptizes your feet, and you get baptized, and he rubs you with oil, which is very temple-ish, but it smells way better than anything I've ever experienced in a Mormon temple. And then you come out in white, and the whole congregation is there with your godmother and your sponsor, and you're celebrated. It is such a ritual of like conversion. It's not easy to convert to Catholicism. And I dare any of you who want to challenge me on this, try to become Catholic and tell me how it goes. It takes a year. Now, if you can tell me,
I can confirm that. I can confirm that.
You become Mormon and saved, and
I can lie for a year.
derelict my balls with
Yeah.
like a bunch of 19-year-olds. No, it was this beautiful ritual. The priest washed my feet.
Wow.
It's like getting an anointing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get
Yeah.
To be a Mormon, all you have to do is play a softball, a baseball game, and then you get baptized after it.
No.
And
You
they
get
only
You have to trip in the
baptize,
fountain.
for the record, Catholics only baptize new members, not born into, because when my children were born, they got baptized Catholic as babies and da 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 da. And then they go
Victory
through
for
the
Satan.
they go through the process. Now, if I
Victory for
wanted as
Satan.
an outsider to become a Catholic, no, they make you go through the process. It takes a year.
That's
There
not
you go.
fair. Just go
Took
ahead.
about 5
I was
minutes
gonna
in
say
my
this-
mission.
I was going to say this one thing real fast, Randy. You know, the church is marketing Jesus, we'll say, right? And there used to be infomercials, right? And they would say, and it's $9.99, but if you act now, it's $8.99. And then they would always offer more things, and you get a free book,
Yeah.
and you get, you know, this other thing. And my friend used to say,
Back rub.
and if you still don't want it, we'll do this for you, right? And so that's sort of like the desperation that Randy's talking about. Okay, Randy,
Oh, yeah.
your
Good
turn.
point.
Oh no, I was just going to say in my mission took about 5 minutes to baptize someone. All they had to do is say yes, and we'd hurry and interview them and baptize them. That's how desperate the mission was to get baptisms.
Well,
But
if it's
I
true, it
remember
should be good enough.
when I was a kid, if you'd get a new bank account, they would give you toasters or blenders
Yeah, yeah.
or kitchen appliances at the bank. And that went away after I started, becoming an adult. But I remember getting a couple of those prizes when I opened my new account.
So
So
the
the
church,
church needs to figure out something fun to give
Oh,
away
yeah.
to people when they're baptized.
yeah, like you
wouldn't
get
you know,
baptized, your first tithing check, you get a toaster.
right?
You get 10 grand in cash. You get a shiny
Tithing
$1,000 bill.
makes it up past $3,000. You get a new love seat.
I wouldn't rule it out, honestly.
And here's the thing, I can criticize a lot of religions because I don't like
Because you've been
some
them
of
all.
the things they've done, and I absolutely can. And some people will say, why did you convert your kids to Catholicism? Because it looks much worse on paper because of SA and da 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 da. But you know what? Those cases have come out. Those cases have been prosecuted. Those people have been like,
The Catholic Church has been cleansed.
Some. I'm sure
at
it's a
some
huge
point,
problem today.
I want Mormonism to cleanse themselves of sexual abuse. I want Mormon Church to cleanse themselves from like predators. I want them to follow in the line of that and then not just like hijack. You know, I feel like Mormon does. It's like a spare tire. Like you have 4 good tires on your car, you get a flat tire, you put the Mormon tire on, and it's like you can only go 55, and it's a bitch until you get it replaced.
Yeah, but Deb, even if they do all those things that you just said, they're still not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Book of Mormon is still
Well, and I've
false.
always said that because like something that is based on a lie can never be true. Like in my belief system of like, could there be prophets or this guy come to save these people and did weird things? I can't understand history on that level because I didn't live in that history, but I can respect it and and research the history of that. Mormon history, and this is what pissed me off when I started researching, because I was never a pissed off Mormon, was I researched Mormon history, and it was all about covering up a lie and a lie and a lie, and it's a cult, it's criminal, it's like, okay, and I did the occult thing. I became a witch. I would create a bloodstone for you. I could do that. I could, in my mind, believe I could do something more evil than what Joseph did. And I was equal to him.
Do you create a bloodstone once a month? Is that what we're talking about?
No, but I'm just saying, in comparison, I found God when I wanted to, like,
Well, the thing about the Catholic Church, it wasn't just an internal cleansing; it was an external cleansing as well, and that's why like I do take some issue with Catholicism, but not as much as like Mormonism or things
Yeah.
like that. Is because Catholics actually prosecuted people, they booted people, and then on top of that, innocent Catholics died. Like, not a lot of people in America know this, but when all the sex abuse cases came out, like people in Brazil were murdered, in India priests were assassinated, like it had nothing to do with it, but it was this whole just like backlash against the church while it was prosecuting the cases, and then the problem was resolved and everyone just
The
moved
problem
on
is
with
not
their lives.
resolved. You're out of your mind if you think that problem's resolved. There's priests molesting kids right now.
I mean,
Here.
that's
my
true with
husband-
everybody. That's true with like every group. There's
So
people in
it's
America
like no
molesting
different
people
than
right
a
now.
girl being raped by a bishop. But you know what? That priest got convicted, and that guy, got compensation. You know what the Mormon Church does? They hide behind a lawyer
Catholics
and
do the same thing.
say, we didn't do anything bad, especially in Utah. If you want to look at our statistics of sexual abuse, rape, it's off the
Yeah.
charts. It's like third world in Mormonism.
I'm gonna
That's
say
right.
this: it's worse than
It's so
than
gross.
third world. It's worse than third world. I've seen the
It's
stats on
worse.
Utah
Our
and compare
brothers
it.
live in Colombia,
Yeah,
then in Utah,
go
walking
to Peru.
around.
Peru's
a bunch of
amazing.
fucking
Peru's
rapists.
amazing.
I would be astounded if sometime the bishop or someone speaking in church would use the term our church. In our church, this is what we do. But it's always the church, like it's the
Yeah.
only church that exists. In my church, in a conversation, in my church, this is how we do this. But a Mormon speaking, it's always in the church. Like
If it's
everyone
true,
else is inferior.
Nobody else
except
counts,
for-
Randy.
What's
if it's
that?
true, that's the case.
Nobody else counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's true,
Right.
Everybody else is
that's the
playing
case, though.
church, remember? They're all playing
Yeah.
church.
Everyone is playing church. Although what's interesting is they don't do that in other countries.
Amen. And you know what?
I
In Utah,
disagree
they
with
do
that.
it 10 times more
Yeah.
because
I-
they
I-
have these
yeah.
fundamentalists that even have more rape and more sexual abuse because of the even, like, I'm more special than the Mormon church vibe. I mean, Catholics don't have the guys who say I'm more Catholic than Catholic. They just, like, don't
Yeah.
use birth control. Guess what? These guys marry 13-year-olds. It's Kingston. It's AUB. It's FLDS.
Yeah, but we're
It's
getting
been
off the
alive
subject.
and been allowed to.
Yeah, Deb.
We're getting off the subject.
Well, yeah.
We're talking
what
about
I'm saying is-
marketing Jesus.
Yeah, marketing.
Actually, you know what?
Pissed off earlier.
Marketing
I
Jesus. Well,
say-
this kind of goes into what Randy was
FLDS,
saying.
that's what I said.
And this goes into what Randy was saying, and what I was getting at is they don't say the church in other countries, and I've seen this firsthand because marketing, right? If you come here to Mongolia, 57% Tibetan Buddhist, 40% no religious affiliation, and then 2% is Muslim, and then the 0.1% is like just everything else, right? So, like, from a marketing perspective, if you say, well, we're the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's not this church, we're the church. Here, that doesn't work because nobody likes Christians here anyway. They're isolated. They keep to themselves. They don't, like, they're not, at least in my
Dave,
opinion,
you're saying
like, they're
that
not
if
normal.
Dave, you're saying that if you marketed, hey, we're the one true Church of Jesus Christ, then they would say, oh, you're the one church we don't like.
Yeah, be like, oh,
That's
well,
what I'm
they
saying.
just
We
be
don't
like,
know what the
okay,
people
whatever,
talk-
and then go about their lives because there is freedom of religion here. Be like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then they go about their day because in Mongolia, other countries in Asia, and even just other parts of the world, the overwhelming majority of population in, insert name of country here is not Christian. So you can't market Jesus by saying it's not this church, we're the true church, if the overwhelming majority aren't even Christian in the first place, because that doesn't resonate.
Do you think that is, Dave, I'm going to ask you a question. Like, is that because, like, the need to survive overcomes, like, this, like, someone will save me? Like, these people have been, I feel like Mongolian culture has been, like, this nomadic, like, survivor culture that can surpass anything. And they've created a beautiful culture. So religion can't, like, come into that because they've
They have
survived
religion.
without religion. Because
They
where
have
Yeah.
was
religion.
God when they were dying and like surviving on the plains?
They're
Well,
Buddhist.
it's not so much that it's predominantly a many are Buddhist, but also b it's like from my anecdotal observation, it's like the culture. There's a huge national pride here, huge national pride, and so anything foreign gets kind of both curious looks but also weird looks. Right, walking
Very,
on the
very
street with
different
my
from
fiance.
America.
Yeah, like I get weird looks from old people all the time when I'm walking to like CU, the convenience store just down the block, because the older generation is just like, oh, our women are marrying foreigners. This isn't necessarily good, right? So it's not so much that it's not a thought process. I don't think of where is God. It's just there's so much culture ingrained already in many countries around the world that it just won't go anywhere to begin with. Like India, good luck with that. China, good luck with that. Not even because of the government, but just because of the Chinese culture and the view of the family. That sure, the Mormons do have a doctrine and theology around family, but it's not Chinese culture, so why do they need it?
Well, here that's a good point, Dave. Here's a great way to sell Jesus, in my opinion. The prophet, if he's indeed a prophet, what if every Saturday he went to the children's hospital and walked through the hallways and went in with his priesthood power and in the name of Jesus Christ healed children? Because if he's a true prophet, all the prophets of old could do that.
Yeah,
If he's a true prophet,
Well, according to what's written,
yeah,
can you
we don't know if it
imagine?
really happened. It's what's written.
Well, it's
Yes.
what's written, but what I'm saying is they sit in their offices and they run a corporation. What if they were walking the halls of the hallway giving blessings,
Yeah.
even if
That's
they
very
were
telling.
blessings of comfort?
Well,
Man,
Yeah.
here's the thing about that. Here's
Very
the thing
telling.
about that is because of the culture, and I'm going to use India as an example. Jesus is prevalent and exists in India, in Hinduism.
That's where he's
But
at.
he's not seen as like the son of God. He's a
Right.
sadhu. He's a sadhu. He's an ascetic. He's a holy man, right? So if the prophet were to go to India or other countries with that mentality, they wouldn't say, oh, this is the one true church of Jesus Christ and then convert. They would say, oh, this is just one guru of many gurus who in the long line of Hinduism have done these things. Add him to the pile.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's when culture can succeed a religion. And I feel like Mongolia is definitely, like, there's definitely countries I've studied that it doesn't matter about religion. It matters more about culture and people and how they treat each other. And when you go into those countries and how you behave and how you act means
Yep.
more than anything you believe in. Like, I could come in with a Bible or a Book of Mormon or whatever, or a Quran, like, and they would be like judging me on myself versus my religion. And
Yeah.
I will leave it at that because I think that's the better way to believe, is that we should judge people on their character and their culture and what they bring to the table over bullshit, and like diatribe. I'm so done arguing religion. I want to argue culture next. And this might be my last Mormon Tim, but like literally, I want to see a better conversation about how to become human. And that's just what I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, and the cool thing is that doesn't require marketing,
Well, for
unlike the LDS Church. That doesn't require marketing other than the LDS Church, because that sells itself.
Pay influencers, pay me, motherfuckers, and I'm
There you
gonna
go.
peace out on that. Pay
I've got
me.
100. I've got 115,000. Oh, she bounced. Okay, I got 115,000 followers on Facebook. Why am I not getting paid? They're all in Southeast Asia and Africa. Like,
There you go.
pay me. Like, what the
Hey,
heck?
they should contact you.
Yeah,
Tim-
yeah, they should.
Tim, did you want to sort of bring the congregation to a clarity of anything?
Give us a blessing.
You typed in I.
No, that was just to test. That was nothing.
Oh,
I thought you were like, I have something to say, but your fingers were so excited about wanting to say it that you just couldn't get it out. You just put I out there.
I started to type something, and the cat made me hit the button by accident.
There you go.
yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
did it.
Your homework.
This one, Jan, on my lap. He wants attention.
Jan
So-
wants attention.
Jan, man. Jan's a woman.
If I
No,
had a
it's
social media,
Jan and Dean, the singers.
My aunt Jan. I have an aunt named Jan.
Okay.
What I want to do, instead of marketing Jesus, I want to market Gene for a second.
Jesus.
Okay.
Jesus. So at the bottom of the screen and in the chat, there is a show that I did with a current believing member of the church, and she is actually doing, good things in the world. The show is called, her organization is called Peace Through Music International, and it ran last week. It has less than 100 views, so I hope we can do something. Share it with a friend. Everybody, click on it right now. Copy and paste. Share it with somebody. Sharing is caring. Because she went to Kosovo. She's gone to Northern Ireland. They're still having a problem. I thought that was over when I did my paper out.
No,
I thought it was over.
No,
no.
I didn't know. So here, she helps kids that are in what are the camps called when you don't have a homeland anymore?
Concentration.
Refugee camps.
Refugees, right? She goes to refugee camps, and she brings either like little flutes or harmonicas, and she teaches the kids a skill. It's not a lot. They're never going to be rock stars with what they're learning, but it's giving them confidence to learn something and to entertain themselves, their families. And she's doing a really good work, right? And she's in, I think, can't remember. She's in Ukraine, I think, right now. And
Wow.
she's putting, not necessarily her life at risk, but it is
Kinda.
not making as much
It
money. as
is.
She taught private music lessons to rich people in America, and she's doing this thing out of the goodness of her heart, which is
Cool.
supposedly what Jesus is supposed to do, right?
Right.
Help people do things out of the goodness of their hearts. And that's what Randy has joined. That's why Randy has joined Latter Daily Digest, because out of the goodness of his heart, he wanted to get his mug out there to at least a dozen more people here and there, right? So that, and I appreciate Randy, all he does, and he's got his background going. It's clicking. He's got his on air. He's got his cherries on the wall. And I've just been kind of boring with me up here. But anyhow,
On air, huh?
this episode is really pretty good. My wife saw it and she said that the person is amazing. Her story is totally amazing. And for some reason, her name is Liz. She said, Liz is amazing, and she is an amazing person. She deserves more than 73 views or whatever it is. So anyway,
Wow.
we'll close out the show.
Okay,
Everybody
sounds
wants
good.
to- Marketing Jesus, you know, one thing that really ticks me off is when defenders of the faith get mad at people who have left the church and start a podcast, like Greater Free Mormon, like John Dehlin, and they say, and they call it priestcraft, and they say, why can't you leave the church alone? And yet, their church has 100,000 people out there right now, some full time, some part
Knocking
time,
on doors.
some couple missionaries. They're knocking on doors. They're telling people to lose their current faith.
That's
to
right.
join the Mormon faith.
Yeah.
And so, if they're asking people to change their faith, that's all we're doing. They should honor what we're doing. And if they don't want ex-Mormon podcasters out there, they should tell the church to stop sending missionaries out, because
Sounds good.
they outweigh us, and they even have more. The church even has more money than Randy. Let me tell you.
Oh, really? You think?
Wow.
I
Wow.
doubt that.
Randy
Part of
needs
their
to lend
billions
us all
is because
money.
Randy used to pay tithing. That's what
I don't know about that. I've seen Randy's OnlyFans. I don't know if I believe that. Gene.
Oh boy.
Randy,
Yeah,
Randy,
but like
Oh,
anyone
boy.
would pay to see that.
Randy.
Right on.
Also,
Right on.
Shelley Patours is a show that we just recently did with Randy and I did it. Shelley's awesome. She's from Australia. And thank you, Shelley, for commenting a lot tonight. And
Thank you,
she says
Shelley.
the church has become more interesting since I left. You know what? Church
That's
history is fascinating when you really know what the truth is.
A burning building.
Somebody told me that they were amazed. Oh, even the Mormon atheist that we just came out, he talks about how real history is that the Mormons settled almost 1/3 of the United States in the West,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they helped discover gold, and they're part of lots of things. So
Yeah, Mormons discovered gold. It was a Mormon that discovered gold at Sutter's Mill.
They helped
Yeah.
spread slavery.
And-
Lots of stuff.
I want to end on this. Can you imagine how it would sell the church, if instead of sending these young boys out to knock on doors, what if they sent these kids out who are willing to serve and just going asking people, what can I do to help you?
mend fences.
Well, that's what they're doing, basically. That's what they're offering to help people move
That's
and
what
deeply.
So they're
Well, that's what
starting
they
to
have to do. That's what they have to do in countries with strict religious laws. Like here in Mongolia, they're not allowed to proselyte at all. It is illegal.
Right.
So what they have to do and what they are doing is more service through educational roles, such as teaching English is a big one. They've also built wells, so things like that. Same in India, because as we've seen, I believe it was in Indonesia, handing out a piece of paper is a great way to get arrested and deported in many countries.
Right on.
Right, but
Well,
one
they
thing
need to
Randy
do
would
it without obligation, though.
Yes,
they need
that's
to
what I
do
was
it
just gonna
without
say.
trying to say, yeah, I'll help you if.
as long as you
Right.
come to church,
I was gonna,
Let's have a
as
closing.
long as you
prayer.
take a discussion.
I was gonna
Right.
say instead of knocking on doors, those kids should be out knocking on doors, right?
Ha ha
There you go.
ha ha.
Thanks everybody for
We're
watching.
natural.
Thank you.
Um,
Good night.
We'll say goodnight to Marketing
Goodbye.
Jesus. And there was more that I wish we could have talked about in general, about our feelings about the church being marketed and stuff like that. But we kind of got a lot of feelings about other things, we'll say. And so,
Yeah.
so thanks for watching.
I got my feelings out on marketing church. I know that.
There you did.
Feelings were
Yeah.
expressed.
All right.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And